The sky turned black before anyone could react. One moment, it was a peaceful harvest evening on Terra 9, and the next, alien ships blotted out the twin suns. Sirens screamed through the human colony as civilians scrambled for cover. No one expected an invasion this sudden, this brutal, this silent. Liam Hayes wasn't a soldier anymore. He had left the war 5 years ago. But when the explosions hit the ground near the medical center, his instincts kicked in. He grabbed the nearest child and threw himself over her, shielding her body with his own. The ground shook again. Heat burst across the air. Screams echoed from every direction. Liam didn't run. He moved with purpose, guiding injured colonists to the emergency shelters. He wasn't wearing armor. He had no weapon. But his presence alone gave others the courage to move. High above, alien dropships unloaded warriors in black and gold armor. They didn't speak. They didn't warn. They attacked. It wasn't a raid. It was an extermination. Liam saw one of them slash through a barricade like it was paper. A family of 4 never had the chance to scream. That night, half the colony burned. But Liam never left the surface. He pulled a wounded boy from a wrecked skimmer. He fought hand-to-hand with 2 invaders using nothing but a fire axe. By dawn, his shirt was soaked in blood that wasn't his. He had saved 18 lives. News spread fast. The Terran outpost had survived thanks to a single man. His name echoed in hushed voices across the stars. Liam Hayes, the ghost soldier of Terra 9. But what most people didn't know was that one of the alien ships didn't retreat like the others. It crashed, not far from the settlement. Deep inside the jungle of blackwood trees, a foreign ship had slammed into the earth and left a trail of destruction. Liam, ignoring the warnings, went to investigate alone. He found twisted metal, leaking fuel, and the sounds of someone groaning inside. He expected a soldier, a scout, a trap. But instead, he found a woman, an alien woman, older than most warriors. He had faced, but regal and wounded. Her skin was a soft lavender, her hair long and silver, her eyes burning with pain and pride. One of her legs was crushed beneath debris. She didn't beg for mercy. She didn't attack either. She simply stared at him, breathing slowly, preparing to die. Liam looked at her weapon lying beside her. She could have killed him while he stood, thinking, but she didn't move. Neither did he. Instead of finishing her, he knelt down. He lifted the wreckage with a grunt. He bound her bleeding leg with his own shirt. He carried her on his back through the jungle, not knowing if she'd betray him once healed. He didn't ask questions. He just acted. When they reached the colony walls, guards raised their weapons, but Liam didn't let them shoot. He stood between the alien and the rifles. He shouted that she was no longer an enemy. He told them she was just a mother, injured and left behind. A mother who hadn't fired a single shot. The colony doctors were reluctant, but they listened. They treated her. Days passed. She healed. She never once tried to harm them. In the quiet nights, she watched Liam from afar. She spoke little, but her eyes spoke volumes. Gratitude, respect, curiosity. Her name was Viralia, Matriarch of the Tharzani, the same warrior race that had attacked their colony. But she was no longer their leader. She had disobeyed the extermination order. She had tried to stop the assault from inside the command ship. That's why her vessel had been sabotaged. Liam didn't understand her language at first. But when she finally spoke in broken Galactic common, her voice shook. She told him he was not like other humans. And then, she said something that made everyone freeze. She asked to meet him alone. That night, beneath the blue moons, she knelt before him, not as an enemy, not as a prisoner, but as a mother who had seen something rare. She touched his arm gently and said she owed him more than just her life. Her people had rules, old rules, sacred ones, and by those rules she owed him her family's honor. She had 3 daughters, she said, trained as warriors. Strong, loyal, brave, and by the ancient codes of her house, she offered them to Liam, not as slaves, not as property, but as companions. As warriors who would protect and serve the one who had saved their bloodline. Liam didn't speak for a long time after. She made her offer. The jungle air was quiet, but his thoughts were loud. He wasn't a man who took others lightly, and he definitely wasn't someone who wanted a reward that involved people. Especially daughters. But Varelia's face was not proud or cold when she said it. Her voice shook with old pain. She spoke like someone who had lived by unbreakable rules. She was not offering them out of shame. She was offering them out of ancient duty. Her eyes glistened with honor, not pressure. He could have said no, but something in him hesitated. Not for greed, not for pride, but for something deeper. This wasn't about him. It was about her. And about the daughters she trusted enough to give to someone who saved her life with no promise in return. 2 days later, the sky shimmered as a sleek silver ship descended outside the colony's walls. It made no sound as it landed, its hull glowing with soft violet symbols. The colony's guards raised their weapons, but Liam stepped forward and told them to lower them. The ship opened with a soft hiss. The first to step out was tall and glowing green. Her violet hair flowed over her shoulders like a river of silk. She had a strong jaw, fierce golden eyes, and armor carved with ancient markings. Her gaze met Liam's without fear or softness. Second came behind her. She had skin like a clear night sky, deep blue with pale silver streaks down her arms. Her white hair shimmered in the sun. Curved black horns rose from her head, and her long fingers gripped a spear she did not raise. She bowed her head slightly to Liam. The third moved with the silence of a shadow. Her crimson skin gleamed like polished stone. Her black hair flowed down her back, and her sharp eyes studied every movement in the crowd. She wore no weapon, yet looked the most dangerous of them all. They were sisters. Each different, each powerful. And each one stared at Liam not as if he were their master, but as if they were waiting to judge him themselves. They didn't smile, they didn't speak. But something passed between them that needed no words. Varelia walked slowly toward her. Daughters. She was thinner, still healing, but her presence pulled all eyes toward her. She embraced each daughter tightly, whispering something only they could hear. When she turned to Liam, her eyes were wet again. "These are my blood," she said clearly in Galactic common. "They are yours, if you accept them. But know this, if you treat them without honor, I will become your enemy again. Even if my bones must rise from the dust to do so." Liam didn't answer right away. He stepped forward and looked at each daughter closely. He didn't see trophies. He didn't see prizes. He saw warriors. And more than that, he saw something behind their eyes. Conflict, curiosity, even defiance. "I don't own people," Liam said finally. "But if they choose to stay beside me, I'll never ask them to bow. I'll ask them to walk with me. And I'll walk with them, through whatever comes next." For a moment, nothing happened. The air hung heavy between them. Then the green one nodded, just once. The blue one smiled slightly. The red one crossed her arms, then took a step closer to him. It was their answer. Varelia bowed, slow and deep, her shoulders shaking. Then she turned and boarded the ship. The doors sealed. The engines hummed, and within seconds she was gone. She had returned to her people. She had left behind everything that mattered. Now, Liam was alone again, with 3 alien daughters watching him silently. Their names were revealed over the next few days. The green one was Sirintha, the eldest. She was a blade master and had commanded troops in 3 wars. The blue one was Alira, calm and quiet, skilled in defense and healing. The red one was Kelix, youngest, a storm of fire and fury. They were not used to human life. not used to soft beds or quiet nights. They slept with weapons near their hands. They trained before sunrise. They questioned everything Liam did, but slowly they began to adjust. Not because they were ordered to, but because Liam never gave them orders. He cooked for them. He repaired their gear. He helped them build their own training space behind the colony. He never treated them like tools. He treated them like people. That was something they had not experienced before. One evening, Cerintha asked why he never demanded anything from them. Liam simply answered, "Because you're not mine to command." And that was the moment things began to change. Inside their warrior hearts, something began to shift. Not weakness, not love, but respect. Liam woke up earlier than usual. It was still dark, but the faint light of the twin moons gave a silver glow to everything. He stepped outside his cabin, expecting silence, but he heard the sound of movement near the clearing behind the building. All three daughters were training again. Cerintha's blade sliced through the air with perfect precision. Elira moved like flowing water, her long staff dancing with balance and grace. Calix leaped and kicked against wooden targets, leaving them broken and scorched from the force. They had been training non-stop for days. Liam had watched them before, but today was different. Today he didn't just observe from the shadows. He walked into the clearing and said nothing. He simply grabbed a practice stick and stood across from Cerintha. She raised an eyebrow, then nodded. No words were needed. The fight began quickly. She moved fast, aiming low, then high. Liam blocked once, twice, then stumbled. Cerintha didn't strike again. She waited, her golden eyes studying his form, his steps, his weight. "You're slower than I thought," she said at last. Liam grinned, breathless. "I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to learn." From that moment, something unspoken passed between them. Cerintha continued the match, but now her movements were gentler, like a teacher testing a student. Elira soon joined in, adding defense techniques to correct Liam's stance. Even Calix watched from the side with narrowed eyes. By morning, Liam's arms were sore, and sweat dripped from his brow. But he felt alive. It had been years since he'd trained like that. Years since he had felt part of something that wasn't survival or duty. Later that day, Elira approached him with a question. Her voice was calm, almost too soft for someone trained for war. She asked about human customs, about why Liam didn't give orders, even when they expected them. Liam replied, "Honestly, because people who fight together need to trust each other, not just obey." Elira nodded slowly. She said her people had trust beaten out of them in training. Trust was weakness, hesitation, doubt, but now, for the first time, she was beginning to wonder if that was wrong. That evening, Calix challenged Liam directly. She demanded a fight, not a lesson. She wanted to test his strength, not his patience. The Red Warrior moved like a flame, fast and wild. Liam did not beat her. She knocked him down twice, but she didn't smile after her victory. She stared at him, breathing heavily. "You got back up faster than most soldiers I've fought." Liam sat up, bruised but still grinning. "I'm used to losing, but I don't know how to quit." Calix offered her hand, not in pity, but in recognition. When he took it, she pulled him up with one strong jerk, then turned away without another word. That night, something strange happened. Cerintha brought extra food from the colony kitchens and placed it on Liam's table. Elira adjusted the solar lanterns outside to shine better. Calix left her repaired gloves on his workbench with no explanation. None of them spoke of it. None of them admitted they were beginning to care. But Liam noticed. One afternoon, a group of Terran soldiers arrived at the colony. They came to investigate the recent crash. Word of Varelia's daughters had spread across the sectors. Some saw it as a threat, others as a scandal. The officers demanded to see the warrior women. Liam refused. He stood in front of the cabin. arms crossed, and said they were not under military control. The soldiers tried to push past him. That was when Cerintha stepped forward, her blade still in its sheath but her eyes fierce. Elira stood behind him, holding her staff in a protective stance. Calix leaned against the doorway, her gaze sharp. Like daggers, the soldiers backed off. That night, Liam sat with the 3 daughters around a campfire. For the first time they shared stories. Cerintha spoke of her first battle. Elira remembered her days as a healer during a border skirmish. Calix told them how she had stolen a gunship to rescue prisoners without waiting for orders. Liam shared a story too, about how he lost his brother during the siege of Rigel 5. He didn't cry, but his voice cracked near the end. None of the daughters spoke, but Elira placed her hand on his shoulder gently. It was the first time any of them had touched him without challenge or defense. That night, they didn't return to their rooms. They stayed near the fire until it burned low. And when they finally left, Liam stood alone in the dark, feeling something new settle inside his chest. It wasn't duty, it wasn't obligation, it was trust. The colony returned to normal, but things inside Liam's world were shifting. He didn't notice it all at once, but it was there in small moments. The way Cerintha waited for him to finish speaking before adding her thoughts. The way Elira always checked if he had eaten. The way Calix no longer insulted his cooking. Even when it was bad, Liam didn't ask them for anything. But they began doing things without being asked. Cerintha repaired the outer fences after a storm without telling him. Elira helped the local children learn basic healing techniques. Calix patrolled the colony perimeter at night, silent and unseen. It wasn't duty anymore. It was something else. Something they hadn't known they were capable of. Choice. One morning, Cerintha handed Liam a wooden sword. Not a weapon for training. It was ceremonial, carved with symbols from her house. She held it out with both hands, her expression serious. "This is for you," she said. "It means you are under our protection now, not as our commander, but as one of our own." Liam accepted it carefully. He didn't say much, but the way his fingers gripped the handle said everything. He bowed slightly, not as a joke, not as a gesture, but as a warrior accepting a sacred gift. That night, alarms blared across the colony walls. Something had broken the outer sensors. The guards rushed to their stations, weapons drawn. Liam reached for his boots when Cerintha slammed the door. "Open. They're not bandits," she said. "They're mercenaries. Professional. Looking for someone specific." Liam's face darkened. "You think they're after you 3? Calix stepped beside her sister. "No, they're after you." Elira entered last. She held a glowing shard of tech in her hands, scanned it, and nodded. "They came from House Merrick. You humiliated one of their war chiefs during the last siege. Now they want revenge." Liam stood up without another word. He reached for the axe he had buried behind the cabin months ago. He never thought he'd need it again. But tonight, it felt right in his hands. He walked toward the gate with the 3 daughters beside him. The guards tried to stop them. Liam ignored them, so did the sisters. They moved through the front lines like ghosts. The night was thick with fog. Shapes moved in the trees. The attackers were waiting. Then the first shot rang out. A red laser cut across the air, aimed at Liam's chest. But before it struck, Calix was already in motion. She leapt, tackled him to the ground, rolled, and rose again with her fists glowing from the energy of her gauntlets. She charged the attacker without fear. Cerintha spun forward, her blade flashing in the moonlight. She struck twice fast and clean, disarming 2 enemies before they could react. Elira stayed close to Liam, her staff glowing with soft pulses that formed a barrier around them. The mercenaries didn't expect this kind of resistance. They thought they were hunting one. Man, they didn't expect 3 alien warriors trained for galactic war. The ambush turned into chaos. Smoke filled the field. Screams echoed. Liam fought beside Cerintha, not behind her. He blocked an attacker trying to flank her, then swung his axe to knock him out. Calix moved like fire, darting between trees, kicking weapons out of hands. Illyra created shockwaves that knocked groups of attackers back without killing them. They weren't here to murder. They were here to protect. When the final mercenary dropped his weapon and ran, Calix let him go. She could have finished him, but she turned back toward Liam and spat on the ground. Cowards don't deserve my energy. After the fight, the colony was quiet again. But the people had seen it. They had watched the daughters fight for someone they could have left behind. They had seen Liam risk his life not just for himself, but for them. Later that night, Liam sat by the fire again. He didn't speak for a long time. Cerintha was sharpening her blade. Illyra cleaned her staff. Calix threw pebbles into the coals. Watching the sparks jump, "You didn't have to fight with me," Liam said softly. Cerintha didn't look up. "We didn't fight with you. We fought beside you," Illyra added. "We fight for those who fight for us." Calix grinned. And because it was fun, Liam looked at the stars. His breath was slow. Something inside him settled. Something that had been restless for years. For the first time since the war, he didn't feel like a survivor. He felt like he belonged. They were no longer 3 alien daughters given as tribute. And he was no longer the human who saved their mother. They were something more now. They were a team. 2 weeks passed without trouble. The colony had resumed its routines, and the guards started to relax again. Farmers returned to their fields, engineers rebuilt damaged sections, and children played near the community wells. But the peace wasn't permanent. One morning, a sleek silver ship appeared in orbit. It sent no threats, no weapons charged, just a signal. A request to land. The message was directed not to the colony leader, but to Liam Hayes by name. Liam read the transmission carefully. The symbol on the seal was familiar. Royal, but not from Virelia's house. It belonged to the Council of Villari Prime, a neutral empire that rarely involved itself with war. The message requested an audience. In person, he showed the message. To the sisters. Cerintha's face hardened. Illyra's brow furrowed in concern. Calix cracked her knuckles and muttered something about traps. None of them trusted the council. Still, Liam decided to go. He wasn't going alone. The sisters made it clear. If he boarded that ship, so would they. Together, they approached the clearing where the vessel had landed. It was long and narrow, with golden trim and transparent panels. No weapons were visible. The door opened with a soft hum. Inside, the air was warm and filled with light. A figure waited at the center, dressed in royal robes stitched with glowing threads. He had 6 fingers, silver eyes, and a voice like music when he spoke. He introduced himself as Emissary Talek. "I come with no blades," Talek said. "Only with an offer, and perhaps a warning." Liam stepped forward. "Speak your truth, but keep it short. I don't trust words wrapped in silk." The emissary bowed politely. Then his tone grew firm. He told them that the fight with House Matriarch had caused political noise across multiple systems. The act of defending the daughters of Virelia was now a matter of galactic attention. He explained that not all leaders appreciated the change Liam had caused. A human sheltering warriors from a warlike house. A Terran male who rejected domination and chose partnership. It threatened old beliefs, ancient power structures. Some empires felt challenged, but then came the offer, the High Circle wishes to meet you, Talek said. They do not wish to punish. They wish to understand. To observe what kind of human inspires loyalty without control. Cerintha stepped between Liam and the emissary. You mean they want to test him, dissect him, decide if he's a threat to their authority? Talek's eyes softened. Perhaps. Or perhaps they simply fear what they don't yet understand. Illyra added quietly. And those in power always fear change. Calix's voice was sharp. Let them fear. If they come here with blades, we'll answer in kind. Liam listened. In silence. He didn't trust the invitation. But he knew refusing it could bring more danger. The council wouldn't forget his name now. If he ran, he'd become a symbol of rebellion. If he faced them, he might still change something bigger. He looked at the emissary. If I come, they don't touch the colony. They don't touch these three. That's the only way I'll agree. Talek nodded once. You have my word. And the word of the circle. The ship lifted that evening. Not with weapons or soldiers, just with a destination. Coordinates in the Velari star system, a neutral ground. A city floating among starlight and crystal towers. Liam would go. And the daughters would go with him. Before they left, the colony gathered around. They offered food, supplies, and quiet prayers. Children gave Liam drawings. One boy handed Sirintha a toy sword made from wood. She accepted it with a surprising smile. Illyra received a woven bracelet from a shy girl. Calix was handed a medal. Slingshot and grinned at its simplicity. The launch was quiet. The vessel rose without sound, leaving behind the small world that had become home. Liam stood near a window, watching the stars stretch and bend as the ship entered faster than light travel. The sisters stood beside him, each one silent. Sirintha broke the silence. If this is a trap, we fight until the last breath. Illyra nodded. If it's a test, we pass it together. Calix leaned against the wall. And if they offer something better, we still don't forget where we came from. Liam looked at each of them. He didn't need to give orders. He didn't need to promise anything. They had already chosen this path, not out of fear, not out of duty, but out of something stronger than either. They had become his shield, and he had become their anchor. Together, they faced the stars. Asterisk, the city of Velari Prime floated like a jewel in the stars. Towers of glass and stone twisted into the sky, lit by flowing streams of energy. Ships of every design glided between platforms. The air inside the docking bay was warm, scented with flowers and plasma coils. Liam stepped out of the ship first. He wore no armor, just a black coat and worn boots. The warrior daughters followed close behind, each dressed in formal battle robes from their house. They carried no visible weapons, but every step they took reminded everyone they were not weak. Dozens of eyes watched them as they moved through the crystal walkways. Council guards lined the corridors, dressed in golden suits, masks over their faces, staffs in their hands. None of them made a move, but their presence alone made it clear. This was not a casual visit. They were led to a chamber with high arches and glowing walls. At the far end sat 12 figures behind a curved table, the High Circle. Leaders of 12 different species, each with eyes that held centuries of memory. They looked at Liam like he was a question waiting to be solved. The eldest among them, a being of feathers and metal, raised one hand. Human Liam Hayes, you are called before us not as a criminal, but as an unknown. What you did on Terra 9 has challenged more than military order. It has questioned tradition. Liam remained standing. I saved lives. That's not a question. That's a fact. A tall aquatic judge leaned forward. You refused power over the daughters of Varelia. Yet they stay with you still. Why? Sirintha stepped forward before Liam could answer. We are not his, he is ours. A murmur spread through the chamber. The judges did not expect the warrior to speak. Illyra stepped beside her sister, calm but clear. We were given to him by our mother, but he never claimed ownership. He earned our loyalty through action, not force. Calix crossed her arms and smiled coldly. And he fights like a starving beast. We like that, Liam added. I didn't ask them to follow me. I just didn't stop them. One of the judges frowned. You changed them. These daughters were raised to serve a house. Now they speak For themselves, Liam answered plainly. Maybe they just needed permission to be more than what they were told. Silence followed. A long one. Then the eldest judge turned to the others. Words passed in whispers. Translations flickered in the air. Finally, the council turned back. There are those among us who wish to exile you, who fear what you represent. But there are others who believe the galaxy has changed, and change must be met with courage, not fear. The council offered a choice. Liam could stay in the city, become an ambassador, help guide future alliances between humans and alien houses. Or he could walk away, return to Terra 9, but under watch, always suspected. Before Liam could respond, Alira placed a hand on his shoulder. Cerintha stepped closer. Calix shook her head firmly. We didn't come for positions, Cerintha said. We came to make something clear. Alira's voice was soft but steady. He is our bond. He doesn't belong to you. He doesn't belong to us, but we choose him. That is the only truth that matters. Calix stepped forward with her chin. Hi. We are warriors of House Varelia. And if you punish him, you insult our blood. And blood answers blood. The eldest judge studied them carefully. His gaze settled on Liam last. Do you accept what they say? Liam didn't blink. Yes, I didn't ask for this, but I won't reject it. They chose me. And I choose them. The chamber stayed still. For a heartbeat, it felt like the stars had stopped moving. Then the eldest judge nodded. Then so be it. Let the record show this union is not one of power, but of will. Let the galaxy remember that strength does not always come from control. Sometimes it comes from trust. The meeting ended. No fanfare. No applause, just understanding. And quiet approval. As Liam and the daughters walked back to their ship, the city lights shifted color. The guards stepped aside with a hint of respect in their posture. Not submission, not fear, but recognition. On the way back, no one spoke for a while. Then Calix finally grinned. I think I liked the part where they all looked like they swallowed fire. Alira chuckled. That's because you were about to throw a chair. Cerintha looked at Liam. You spoke like a soldier. But you stood like a king, Liam shrugged. I just told the truth. I didn't come to change things. I just didn't want to leave anyone behind. And that was the truth none of the judges could erase. He was never trying to lead. He just walked forward, and they followed. The return to Terra 9 was quiet. No crowds, no speeches, no guards. Just the soft hum of engines and the slow descent onto familiar soil. The colony looked the same, but something felt different. Maybe it was the way people stared a little longer. Maybe it was the way they smiled when Liam walked past. He didn't need a title. He didn't want one. He just wanted peace. But peace had become more than silence. It had become the quiet bond between four people who had chosen each other without pressure or demand. The daughters resumed their training. Cerintha began teaching young colonists how to wield a staff. Alira opened a small healing tent for injuries and sickness. Calix set up patrol drills with the local guards, pretending it was boring but never missing a shift. Liam spent most days rebuilding the northern wall, hands covered in dirt and sweat. But every evening, without fail, they ate together. No matter how long the day had been, they gathered at his table. It became a rhythm, a ritual, something stronger than duty. One night, a storm rolled across the horizon. The rain came heavy, beating against the roof like drums. Power flickered. Wind howled through the cracks. Liam checked the doors and secured the windows. When he turned around, the three daughters were already inside, standing silently. Calix was the first to speak. We need to talk. He raised an eyebrow. About the storm? Cerintha stepped forward. About us. Liam set the tools down. He gave them his full attention. He wasn't nervous. But something in the air felt heavy, like a moment waiting too long to arrive. Alira walked slowly toward him. Her voice was soft. We were sent to you. But we stayed with you. We learned from you. We changed because of you. And we think you've changed too. Calix leaned against the wall. I don't follow orders. I don't ask permission. But I need to say this anyway. I don't want to live another cycle without you. Cerintha's eyes locked with his. She spoke with calm force. You have our loyalty. That was earned, but now you have something else. Our choice, our feelings, our hearts. Liam didn't answer right away. He walked toward the table and pulled out a chair. He sat down slowly and looked at them one by one. These weren't strangers anymore. These were warriors who had fought beside him, bled beside him, trusted him when they had no reason to. He took a breath. You know, I never expected this. I never planned for anything like it. Alira nodded. But you never turned away, not even once. Calix crossed her arms. So what now? Do you accept us, or do we walk out that door? Liam shook his head. I don't want you to walk anywhere, not away from this place. Not away from me. The room was quiet again. But this time, it was not heavy. It was calm, warm, full of something unspoken and yet fully understood. They moved closer. Cerintha sat on his left, Alira on his right. Calix behind him, her arms gently draped across his shoulders. It wasn't just affection, it was a pact. One stronger than any ceremony or contract. Outside, the storm began to fade. The wind softened, the rain slowed. The house remained still. Over the next few days, the colony noticed. People smiled wider. Children laughed louder. Even the air felt lighter. There was no announcement, no need for one. Everyone could see it. Liam was not alone anymore. He was chosen, and he had chosen in return. Cerintha, once a blade master who trusted only her sword, now smiled more easily. Alira, once trained to heal but forbidden to feel, now hummed softly while working. Calix, once fierce and untouchable, now playfully tossed pebbles at Liam's boots when he walked past. The change wasn't loud. It was gentle, like a fire that warmed, not burned. Like a bond that didn't need to be named, only lived. They slept under the same roof now. They trained together, ate together, laughed together, fought side by side when needed. There were no roles, no ranks. Only the steady rhythm of 4 lives moving in the same direction. One evening, Liam stood alone outside, watching the stars. Cerintha joined him first, her hand slipping into his without a word. Then Alira wrapped a shawl around both their shoulders. Calix leaned on the rail beside them, smirking as always. Liam looked up. Never thought I'd end up here, Cerintha whispered. Neither did we. But we're glad we did. Alira closed her eyes. We were born to serve, but we live to choose. Calix tilted her head. And we choose you every day. The stars didn't answer. They didn't need to. Liam already had everything he needed. Right beside him, the twin suns rose slowly above Terra 9, casting golden light across the quiet hills. The fields shimmered with dew, and the breeze carried the scent of wildflowers and burnt wood from the training ground. Liam stood at the edge of the colony, watching the day begin. He had seen many mornings like this, but today felt different. Today wasn't about rebuilding or surviving. Today was about building something new. Behind him, the cabin door opened. Cerintha stepped out first, dressed in her ceremonial armor, polished and clean. Alira followed, robes flowing like silk. In the soft wind, Calix came last, her short cloak fluttering behind her, eyes already sharp and alert. They stood beside him without a word. Their presence was calm and strong. No one spoke of what this day meant. It was not a ceremony for the colony. It was for them. A quiet vow shared between 4 souls who had chosen one another in the middle of war. And silence. They walked together through the colony. The settlers paused to watch. Some waved. Others simply nodded in quiet respect. Everyone understood something. Sacred was happening, even if they didn't know the words. At the edge of the Blackwood Grove, a circle of stone marked the old meeting grounds. It had once been used for leadership decisions and oaths. Now it was theirs. A space reclaimed not by title, but by choice. Liam stepped into the circle first. He turned to face them, heart steady. Cerintha placed her sword in the ground between them. Alira placed a small vial of healing water beside it. Calix laid down her gauntlets, their surfaces glowing faintly. "These are our tools," Cerintha said. "But today we do not use them for battle. Today we use them to promise," Alira added. "We do not follow you because we must. We walk with you because we want to." Calix grinned. "You didn't ask for us, but you never pushed us away. That means something." Liam looked at the items placed before him. He bent down and touched the sword, the vial, and the gauntlets. Then he placed a single wooden carving in the center. It was a small figure, rough and simple. 4 shapes standing together beneath stars. "I don't know what tomorrow brings," he said. "But I know who I want beside me when it comes." Cerintha nodded. "Then we walk as one. Not as master and warriors, but as equals." Alira touched his hand gently. "As family." Calix folded her arms. "And if anyone tries to separate us, they'll lose teeth." The wind blew softly through the trees. Birds flew overhead. The light shifted just right, casting long shadows that met at the center of the circle. No judge had to witness it. No priest had to bless it. The vow was made in action, not in words. After the ceremony, they didn't return to the cabin right away. They walked through the forest, following trails no map had marked. They crossed streams and climbed hills. They laughed at small things. They shared stories of the past and dreams of the future. At the top of a ridge, they paused. Below them, the land stretched far and wide. Rivers glittered in the light. The colony looked small from here, almost like a memory. Cerintha broke the silence. "We could leave, you know, the 4 of us. Go find something new." Alira looked at Liam. "Or stay, make this place stronger." Calix smirked. "Or do both. Build here, then roam together later." Liam didn't answer right away. He stared at the horizon. Then he turned to them. "Wherever we go together. That's the only plan I need." They sat on the ridge until the stars returned. One by one, the sky lit up with constellations. No more battles called to them. No more orders chained them. They had already faced judgment, fire, politics, and doubt, and they had walked through it side by side. Liam looked at each of them, strong, different, loyal, wild. They had arrived in his life as a gift he didn't ask for. Now they were the only part of it that felt truly his. He spoke quietly. "Thank you for staying." Cerintha leaned against his shoulder. "Thank you for letting us." Alira wrapped her arms gently around them. "For understanding us." Calix yawned loudly. "For putting up with us." The stars above said nothing. The world around them held its breath. 4 lives once broken, now whole. 4 paths once divided, now one. Together, they had not just survived, they had built something worth living for.